On a spring night last year, two very different worlds collided violently on a dark Texas highway. A cop from the country was shot dead by a teenager from the inner city. The teenager is trying now to avoid the death penalty, claiming the sounds of his world drove him to violence. Bob McNamara has the story in tonight's Eye on America.
Something's going to have to happen.
An eye for an eye.
Tooth for tooth.
In an Austin courthouse.
He should get the death sentence.
He is a dangerous human being.
A life and death debate.
These people don't understand what those kids see growing up.
What should be done with Ronald Ray Howard?
What he did was execute my husband.
What penalty do you think he should get?
The death penalty.
Why?
Why not? He took a life for no reason.
There was a reason Ronald Howard killed Trooper Bill Davidson. According to Howard's attorney, it was violent rap music.
There's no doubt in my mind that rap music played a role in this killing. Everything he did in his life came from those rap songs.
His defenders say Ronald Howard saw himself as a soldier in the inner city war between police and young black men.
They don't care about us. They don't care about us. They want to kill us, you know.
In Houston's South Park, the tough neighborhood where Howard grew up, those feelings are familiar.
The law, they do their job too well, and they make their own rules sometimes.
I'm living in a bad environment.
In South Park, kids learn early that it's easy to get hurt.
Gun shooting, folks stealing and getting knives put to their throats and stuff.
Kids are being brought up around so many weapons and so much violence that it's almost impossible for a kid to escape.
The way I look at it is all he's trying to do is offer excuses and justifications for what is otherwise cold-blooded, calculated killing. The values of right and wrong remain the same in the country of the inner city.
You're not going to hear rap here. It'll be country and western.
100 miles from Houston's inner city. In the small town where the trooper lived, there is little sympathy for the teenager who killed him.
I think he needs a death penalty. That's my opinion.
If you belong to a gang, they don't have any regard for human life. That's what we're talking about here.
It's difficult for us to understand Ronald Howard's situation, not because we don't want to, it's because we don't know the situation that he was in.
The gulf of understanding between the inner city and the rest of the country has never been so wide. And while people in both places talk about each other, they rarely talk with each other.
And this is our home, you know, this is where we grew up. It's good people, along with the bad.
In both communities, young men cruise Main Street.
Well, I like living in a small town. You know, you do hear bad stories about South Park.
Talking about different ways of life.
Yeah, it's a big difference between South Park and what's happening down there.
Probably to those kids that live over there, I sound like, you know, just a chump. 2 large Dr. Peppers and a large fruit punch.
Somebody may get shot there once a year. Here, somebody's dying every day. You're going to a young person's funeral every day.
In a town like Edna, Texas, they wouldn't understand.
They couldn't relate. No, they couldn't relate at all.
We can relate to it in that we realize that it's there. We don't relate to it in it being able to understand why it's there.
We trapped, you know what I'm saying? Right here, we can't do anything, and we're not free, really. It's not free.
They have come to court like witnesses from different worlds.
I really was not aware of all of this.
Called in to testify to very different truths.
It could be a cruel world out there. Real cruel.
The fight over Ronald Ray Howard's life reveals a great deal about the divisions in our own. In Austin, Bob McNamara for Eye on America.
There's much more to the violence in culture issue than just video games. Also coming in for heavy criticism lately, the lyrics in some, not all, but some rap music. As correspondent Bill Whitaker reports, more and more radio stations are taking requests to tone it down.
dancing on the ceiling like Lionel.
Hardcore gangsta rap is burning up the charts with its searing rage and igniting growing outrage.
It's more of LA's hottest jams, Power 106.
Popular KPWR in Los Angeles is the latest station to put the raps on rap.
We've decided to mask or delete 3 words that are heard in a lot of rap records, and they are nigger, bitch, and hoe.
WPGC. An anti-rap backlash is spreading. WPGC in Washington, D.C. dropped violent or demeaning lyrics 3 years ago. Last month, KACE in Los Angeles followed suit. This week, WBLS in New York City.
It's in pop music, it's in rock music, it's everywhere now. It's an epidemic of bad news for our communities around the country.
Support everything that's positive that's going on in the community.
Stop the Violence, a grassroots watchdog group in Los Angeles, pressed KPWR to rein in rap as a public service.
It's just crazy when you see a 4-, 5-, 6-year-old child walking down the street echoing N-word, nigga, bitch, hoe, killing somebody, this or that, and they can't even say their ABCs.
Some rap artists call this an infringement on their right to free speech. Critics say the artists have a right to say whatever they want, but others also have the right not to hear it. Rappers like Farside say they're just reflecting street life.
I'm not trying to be no bad man and say bad things. I just talk about what I see.
Rap opponents say they're fighting to save a generation. It won't be easy. Last night at the Billboard Music Awards in Hollywood, one of the most foul-mouthed rappers, Dr. Dre, was upheld as one of the best artists of the year. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Los Angeles. Rap always has sparked controversy with its in-your-face rage, but as rap has muscled its way to the top of the charts, has it grown too violent and vicious? The folks at KACE Radio in Los Angeles think so.
When you take a record like Indo Smoke, which is a love song to pot as far as I'm concerned, there's no social benefit to that.
Pass me the joint so I could take a toke. So KACE banned rap it calls negative and destructive.
We're looking at songs whose lyrics glorify violence, glorify the gang lifestyle, glorify disrespecting of women, are blatantly sexually explicit.
I applaud it. I mean, I think it's a very good move. It's a positive move for not only for my children, but for the younger generation.
In fact, an anti-rap backlash is cropping up around the country.
16 minutes after 9 o'clock here at WPGC.
The top urban station in Washington, D.C. pulled the plug on X-rated rap. In Harlem, ministers called on rappers to clean up their act.
You don't have to degrade our women.
But rap fans remind critics that an earlier generation once tried to ban rock and roll.
I mean, that's a bunch of nonsense, you know. I'm all for it. Person and all that. Gangsta music is, you know, it's what sells.
72% of the rap records in Los Angeles are sold to white kids. If anything, this music is teaching them in this generation that they can't turn the other cheek to the problems in the inner city.
Rappers point out that heavy metal weighs in with similar hardcore lyrics.
I bring rap to those who disrespect me like a dame.
And rap diva Queen Latifah claims they're all getting a bum rap just for telling it like it is on the mean streets.
If they running around here shooting people, you can't blame us for that. Go into the real problem. Don't just sit here and say musicians, rappers.
Rappers say their art is a reflection of real rage that's not going away. Neither, critics say, will their outrage. Bill Whitaker, CBS News, Los Angeles.
He's known as Snoop Doggy Dogg, and his new record album, Doggy Style, out today, will likely go right to the top of the charts. To millions of teenagers, most of them white, he's the poet laureate of gangsta rap, the rap style of a ghetto world where everybody's got a gun, women are bitches, and shooting cops is fair game. He's also just been indicted for murder in Los Angeles. Snoop Doggy Dogg, born Calvin Brodus, insists he's innocent and he's free on $1 million bail.
Why are you always so mad?
Last week, another gangsta rapper and film star, Tupac Shakur, was accused of sexually abusing a woman in a New York hotel. Shakur's also been charged with shooting 2 off-duty cops in Atlanta. Gangster rap has become incredibly popular and profitable by selling lyrics about black-on-black violence to a young mainstream audience that wouldn't dream of going anywhere near a ghetto. Now that some of its stars stand accused of doing what they've been rapping about, life seems to be imitating art, so to speak. And the critics are coming out in force. Some radio stations have refused to play the most controversial rap records. And the Reverend Jesse Jackson said today he may target some of the record companies which distribute gangster rap albums.
Never before has there been such a will to use music, to advertise self-destructive violence. People degrading names, niggers, and women bitches.
The rappers argue that they're only painting word pictures about real life on the mean streets of America.
There's no difference in rappers. We all represent the consciousness of our people. But there are certain ways that we go about it.
One result of all the notoriety is that Snoop Doggy Dogg and the others are likely to sell even more records. Richard Frelkel, CBS News,
In the wake of the Rodney King verdict and the civil unrest in Los Angeles, some police officers across the country now say they're feeling threatened by the lyrics of a rap song. James Hattori in Dallas has our report.
The kid got killed on the way to school, our cop shot Joe Kid in the backyard.
As a self-proclaimed gangster rapper, Ice-T plays to raw emotion and outrageous themes. But today, a group of Texas police officers condemned one of his latest songs, Cop Killer, as an invitation to commit murder.
My truck gets shot off. I got my headlights turned off. I'm at the bust some shots off. I'm at the dust some cats off.
The combined law enforcement associations of Texas today called for a halt to sales of the album, saying Ice-T may have freedom of expression, but recording company Warner Brothers has a social responsibility. They don't rule out a boycott of other Time Warner businesses, including the Six Flags amusement parks.
Send these people a message that this is not going to be acceptable for a company as large as Time Warner and Warner Brothers.
No one in law enforcement likes the message in Ice-T's lyrics, but at least one police group, a group of African-American officers, says the message varies depending on how you interpret the song.
If you take the words literally, you can make what you want to, but if you take the words internally, I think the message is saying that, hey, we have a problem. There's some bad police officers out here, some white, some black.
The song was written before the LA riots. Ice-T says it was a warning to abusive police officers of simmering tension in the black community.
And until these cops realize that we're not just going to continually get our butts kicked in the street and we will retaliate, they're not going to act like human beings.
But will young rap fans see the song as encouragement to attack all cops?
I don't think he realizes. I think he's just trying to make money. It's reality. It's going to make a bunch of people shoot the police, though, for real.
And if Ice-T is simply trying to send a message, the police are at least hearing it. James Hattori, CBS News, Dallas.
When it comes to rap music, people either like it or hate it, but some of those opposed to rap say there is more than just musical taste at stake, and they are trying to call one of the nation's biggest recording companies to account. Diana Olick has a report.
Midnight, time for a homicide. Showtime, somebody's gonna die.
It's a war of words.
And now we both connect with the weapon that's in my fist.
In the music and on the street.
We, African American women particularly, are tired of being called hoes, bitches, and sluts by our children who are paid to do this by Time Warner.
They call themselves Empower America, a bipartisan activist group now targeting Time Warner because of its investments in gangster rappers. They say the profane, often misogynistic lyrics promote violence.
But we're both worried about the society our children live in today.
Former Education Secretary William Bennett and the National Congress of Black Women have teamed up to launch a $10,000 ad campaign today with this commercial.
They don't seem to see any connection between the kind of music which they sell for profit and the kinds of problems we have in American society. just exactly what is the problem with the executives at Time Warner.
Time Warner CEO Gerald Levin responded at the company's annual shareholders meeting this week. He declined to be interviewed on camera, but told shareholders that he understands and respects critical views and will work to develop new guidelines for warning labels, adding there must be a balance between the creative process and the responsibility of Time Warner as a corporate citizen. But critics say Time Warner and others in the music industry are tipping the balance, forcing rappers to use the tough language because that's the stereotype and that's what sells. In other words, no profanity, no contract.
I've never had any pressure or anything. They just allow me to be myself.
Rap artist Da Brat says the point is she's not trying to teach or incite anyone.
People make us role models. We're not coming out like on the Wheaties box, like Michael Jordan, you know, saying, eat Wheaties. We're just, you know what I'm saying? We're just expressing ourselves.
Too many hoes that can hang with me. It's like that. While the harsh expression of rap music may have shocked consumers into a buying frenzy in the early 90s, the number of consumers buying rap music now is at a record low, while rock and roll, which shocked another generation, is drawing them back. Diana Olick,
A Los
CBS
Angeles
News.
Times poll out today says that Californians cite a breakdown of moral values and a lack of economic opportunity as the two leading causes of the Los Angeles riots. Well, young rap musicians have some ideas of their own about what caused the deadly violence, and Cindy Kennard has that story.
Hey, roll playback, roll camera.
For rap star Ice-T, riot-scarred South Central Los Angeles serves as a backdrop for a new video and vindication.
We definitely knew there was a lot of tension down here, and we tried to explain it to people, but nobody wanted to listen.
A fool could get his head split.
Ice-T is part of what he calls the gangster faction of rap music, a raw street sound with tough words and an ominous warning about inner-city life that came long before the riots.
We were like the voices from down here in the hood yelling out to people on the rap records.
It's yelling directed mostly toward police.
100 miles and running.
The first album, recorded by NWA, Niggers with Attitude, was released with an obscenity-filled message for law enforcement and sold 2 million copies.
We was just letting everybody know that black people was fed up with getting harassed by the police and getting beat-bombed.
That's what I told you.
But police say rather than just predicting violence, some rappers are provoking it.
The way this LAPD was operating pre this situation, they needed to get killed because they definitely were savage and they were worse than any street gang in Los Angeles.
The music so angered one police union that it urges members to refuse to provide security at rap concerts. The union blames video violence for helping to trigger the uprising in LA.
And I believe that the rap music promotes, by its very language and by its very actions, promotes violence against authority and consequently violence against law enforcement.
You don't make nobody go out and do this. I mean, if we wouldn't have did the record, it still would happen.
Out chilling with the homies, having fun.
Rap fans don't see the pictures and lyrics as a way to incite violence, but instead a way to expose it.
It defines the problems of African youth in America. It does not provoke violence. It reflects America.
It's expressing exactly how black youth are feeling today. It's the most truthful art form you have going.
And Ice-T is going to keep making music. His latest video carries hope and a warning that without a new approach, Los Angeles may be just the beginning, and a hope that this time the rapper's warning will be heeded. Cindy Kennard, CBS News, Los Angeles.
And that's the news from Minnesota is threatening legal action against the nation's largest chain of music stores. At issue, the sale of a rap music album to minors. Correspondent Richard Schlesinger reports on the latest debate about what is art and what is obscene.
The group's name itself is controversial. Niggers with Attitude, known as NWA, has taunted law enforcement with its lyrics urging violence against police. But it is the group's sexually explicit lyrics that attracted attention from the Attorney General's office. Lyrics too explicit to be repeated here, lyrics considered obscene by the authorities in Minnesota.
This is, frankly, offensive to me, and I think to any parent that would hear and would know what these lyrics are all about, they would find that it is nothing but filth.
The Attorney General's office served the warning on executives of the Musicland Group, the largest record store chain in America that owns both Musicland and Sam Goody stores. It threatened criminal prosecution if the stores continue to sell the new NWA record to minors. The issue here, said the Attorney General, is not record burning or censorship. The issue here is access by minors to harmful and sexually offensive material.
I doubt if they'll win this here case.
Minnesota is not the first state to go after record stores. In Florida, a store owner was arrested and convicted for selling copies of a record by Two Live Crew, another rap band whose album As Nasty as They Wanna Be proved too nasty for the local sheriff. Shortly after that, Two Live Crew members themselves were arrested after a concert.
You are now about to witness the strength of street knowledge.
In Minnesota, the Musicland Company could not be reached for comment, but Priority Records, NWA's producers, said in a statement, the issue here is record burning and censorship. NWA songs are a reflection of social conditions, said the statement. The same stories told on NWA albums can be heard or read in the news. Richard Schlesinger, CBS News, New York.
Stay with us now for more news, including tonight's Eye on America.
Bill Clinton's criticism of a rap star for allegedly advocating anti-white violence has rekindled the controversy over rap and its effect on listeners. Sister Soulja was quoted as saying blacks should spend a week killing whites instead of each other. She will hold a news conference later today to answer Clinton's criticism. That follows another flap, this one over the lyrics to rapper Ice-T's song, Cop Killer. Joining us this morning to talk about that are Glenn White, Vice President of the Dallas Police Association, and James Bernard, Senior Editor of the rap magazine, The Source. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you both for joining us. Officer White, I'm going to start with you. Let me read some of the lyrics that you object to from one of Ice-T's songs. I've got my 12-gauge sawed off. I got my headlights turned off. I'm about to bust some shots off. I'm about to dust some cops off. And the chorus begins with, Cop Killer, it's better you than me. Do you really believe these lyrics could incite someone to kill?
When you have young people today, especially with the problems in our society, you have a young person that holds Ice-T up as a role model. They may take those lyrics literally and kill a police officer. As you go through those lyrics, you can basically understand he's planning the assassination of a police officer. It's a concern that should be shared by everyone.
Mr. Bernard, do you share Officer White's concern?
Well, the concern is that Ice-T is not telling anybody something they don't already feel. Ice-T is reflecting a real frustration in the black community, particularly among young blacks with police officers. And I think that's the issue. The issue to me is not some song. The issue to me is why is there this gap between police officers and young black teenagers on the other hand. And that's where I think we should put our energies in terms of trying to figure what's going on there.
But Officer White, the issue for you is the song, is it not?
The song that's the main issue.
Do you buy the argument that this is just a reflection of overall frustration within the black community?
I don't buy it 100%, but there is frustration. I don't think it's a frustration between the police and the minority community. I think there's a lot of problems with government. You get into situations where political people don't listen to the frustrations. They deal with it with political rhetoric. The police officers are the ones that they take it out on. We're the first line anywhere you go. And a lot of times we get blamed for the drug problem, housing, mass transit problems. They blame police officers for it. And since we're the ones that deal with people day in and day out, usually on a negative basis, unfortunately, we are the target of their frustration.
You say that frustration is the root cause of a lot of the problems we're seeing today. Let's talk about Sister Soulja for a moment, another rap singer who's in the news and has been over the last couple of days. How did you react to her quote in the Washington Post that blacks should take a week off from killing each other and kill whites instead?
I don't think she meant that to be taken seriously. I mean, literally. I think she meant it as a rhetorical tool. She's trying to show the level of frustration among young blacks. That kind of killing, that kind of random killing happens every day in those communities. And I think she's trying to make other people outside the community understand what it might feel like to walk down the street and you might be killed any minute. I think she's trying to make people understand that. We become so numb to deaths in these communities, in the paper every day, on the news every night. And I think she's just trying to raise the level of discussion to make it more personal so people think, wow, it's not just them. It could happen to me. Or now maybe I understand how they, quote unquote, they feel. I think that's what she's trying to do.
But you feel very strongly this is not just a rhetorical tool.
Correct, and I think several of the things that you said, by bringing the level of conscience up, you can do that in a very positive way. Whether it's Ice-T or Sister Soldier, you don't have to get up and advocate the killing of police officers or white people. That is not the way to deal with the problem. There are very positive ways you can do, and the way you need to do with it is sit down and talk to these people, not get on the radio and make a record advocating killing anyone. That is dangerous, and like you said, you have random violence in these cities, in the minority community every single day. These records do nothing to solve or prevent those problems.
I think discussions like this are useful, and I think if it sparks more discussions like this is good. I think that what they're trying to do, I mean, you need to be intellectually honest about this, but also I think what these artists are trying to do is be emotionally honest. They're artists. They're trying to show the level of frustration and raise the level of discussion. They're trying to be, they're emotional about it because that's how people feel. And the message is not polite, but I don't think that any young rap listener takes it literally. I think that we just need to understand the level of emotions. I think that's the first step towards healing, is to recognize those emotions.
Thank you both for joining us this morning. You
Thank
say
you
you won't be satisfied until you get an apology, and in the meantime, you'll continue to boycott the sales of Ice-T's albums.
Yes, ma'am, we sure will.
Thank you.
And while people in both places talk about each other, they rarely talk with each other.
And this is our home. You know, this is where we grew up. It's good people, along with the bad.
In both communities, young men cruise Main Street.
Well, I like living in a small town. You know, you do hear bad stories about South Park.
Talking about different ways of life.
Yeah, it's a big difference between South Park and what's happening down there.
Probably those kids that live over there, I sound like, you know, just a chump.
2 large Dr. Peppers and a large fruit punch.
Somebody may get shot there once a year. Here, somebody's dying every day.
What penalty do you think he should get?
The death penalty.
Why?
Why not? He took a life for no reason.
There was a reason Ronald Howard killed Trooper Bill Davidson. According to Howard's attorney, it was violent rap music.
There's no doubt in my mind that rap music played a role in this killing. Everything he did in his life came from those rap songs.
His defenders say Ronald Howard saw himself as a soldier in the inner-city war between police and young black men.
They don't care about us. They don't care about us. They want to kill us, you know.
On a spring night last year, 2 very different worlds collided violently on a dark Texas highway. A cop from the country was shot dead by a teenager from the inner city. The teenager is trying now to avoid the death penalty, claiming the sounds of his world drove him to violence. Bob McNamara has the story in tonight's Eye on America.
Something's going to have to happen.
An eye for an eye.
2 for 2.
In an Austin courthouse.
He should get the death sentence.
He is a dangerous human being.
A life and death debate.
These people don't understand what those kids see growing up.
What should be done with Ronald Ray Howard?
What he did was execute my husband.
In Houston's South Park, the tough neighborhood where Howard grew up, those feelings are familiar.
The law, they do their job too well, and they make their own rules sometimes.
I'm living in a bad environment.
In South Park, kids learn early that it's easy to get hurt.
Gun shooting, folks stealing and getting knives put to their throats and stuff.
Kids are being brought up around so many weapons and so much violence that it's almost impossible for a kid to escape.
The way I look at it is all he's trying to do is offer excuses and justifications for what is otherwise cold-blooded, calculated killing. The values of right and wrong remain the same in the country of the inner city.
You're not going to hear rap here. It'll be country and western.
100 miles from Houston's inner city. In the small town where the trooper lived, there is little sympathy for the teenager who killed him.
I think he needs a death penalty. That's my opinion.
If you belong to a gang, they don't have any regard for human life. That's what we're talking about here.
It's difficult for us to understand Ronald Howard's situation, not because we don't want to, it's because we don't know the situation that he was in.
The gulf of understanding between the inner city and the rest of the country has never been so wide.